Hey everyone, this is Nikachu, and we are going to look into Modern because it is Modern that you guys are going to need for Grand Prix Las Vegas. Before I get any further, let's go thank our sponsor, themanabase.com. If you need any reasons to play Pauper, the most cheapest format on Earth, well, guess what? Austin Hoy can give you 10 of them. Go check out his series, The Pauper Ponderings, on themanabase.com. And I have a bunch of new patrons supporting me on Patreon. I'd like to thank Jesse McClenny. I'd like to thank Greg Robinson, Mark Wheat, Jonathan Asseline, and Barbara McCann. Thank you so much for supporting me on Patreon. I absolutely appreciate it. It helped pay for another yearly subscription to my virtual machine, Parallels, which allows me to play Magic the Gathering online on a Mac. Normally it can't be played on a Mac, but through the power of Parallels, it can. It's a virtual machine. It just runs like Windows right on a Mac. It's weird. It's really resource hogging, which also makes this recording sometimes awkward and clunky. So first off, my computer is just choking like crazy. And I found out that the core problem was that it can't record the webcam while capturing the screen at the same time. Either a latest update to Magic the Gathering online, or my recording software, or something else is just pushing my RAM a little bit beyond its boundaries. So until I'm pretty sure it's my recording software, Camtasia. So until that gets fixed, we're gonna have to just make do with a cardboard cutout of me. So I played in the Modern Challenge just recently, and we're gonna look at a replay of it because my computer was just choking trying to record the first round, and I ended up going all the way down to 8 minutes in time, lagging like crazy, and I decided to abandon recording because I was making all sorts of stupid laggy misplays, and I ended up rushing the match to a very quick loss. Very unfortunate starts in the Modern Challenge, but we're going to look at all the replays because of all the interesting choices in this deck. Let us start with Venser. Everyone knows that Master of Waves is feeling a little lackluster right now. Dies to Fatal Push, dies to Collective Brutality, Liliana the Last Hope, especially Walking Ballista. So why not we try out Venser? Venser looks okay right now, especially since Blue-White Control is coming back in a big way, and even Esper Control, but the point is that they're playing with Supreme Verdict, and we can bounce that back to their hand. We can also we can also bounce and negate, we can bounce whatever Snapcaster Mage targets and casts, and that will just vaporize that spell. Something else we have to note about are the negates over Unified Will. I'm definitely off Unified Will right now, and the reason for that is that Blue-White Control plays with stuff like Timely Reinforcements, which puts 3 soldiers on the board. Once those soldiers are on the board, Unified Will becomes like poop. And not only that, there were definitely a lot of situations where my opponent only had to activate a Kolaghan's Command while they had a Snapcaster Mage in play, and Unified Will wasn't any good there. And so I really want a hard counter against Sphinx's Revelation and all the Planeswalkers that they have, so we're definitely going to be playing with Negate. Negate also better than Unified Will, I think, against Storm, because they're always going to have like a Goblin Electromancer or a Baral out. It's very hard to have more creatures than the Storm player. Let's say we have 2 creatures out and we get into a counterspell war. All they have to do is bolt one of our creatures to equal it up, or Grape Shot. And it's not really hard for them to do, and it doesn't lose them anything because they're just going to Past in Flames everything anyway. So I found that Unified Will just a little too situational. It really failed me on too many fronts against 2 decks that are incredibly popular right now. Yeah, so that's why I am playing with Negate over Unified Will. We're going to be playing with the Gut Shots, 4 Gut Shots, and 2 Tidebinders Mages, and 2 Dismembers, all giving respect to the new Vizier combo, the new Abzan Company. That deck, at least from my perspective, very, very consistent. And there's no way in hell it would be in the format if it wasn't. The only thing that will kill it are removal spells. Like if you just use removal spell after removal spell on their creatures, then it's going to be very hard for them to assemble their combo. But we don't actually play with a whole lot of hard removal. Stuff like Harbinger of the Tides isn't going to do very well against the stupid druid that can create infinite mana. Yeah, so we have very poor interaction against that deck. My hope is to gutshot down the Mana Dork so that they cannot play Collected Company or Chord of Calling. And in some ways it can kill the Vizier in response to perhaps a Kitchen Finks Infinite Life combo. Because they can go for the infinite mana combo, which is very hard for us to interact with, or they can just combo us out like normal. But anyway, that deck, plus Affinity and Elves, which has picked up in popularity, is why I want to be running all 4 gutshots in the sideboard. But the most spiciest of all the cards in here are the Smuggler's Copters. We're going to play with 2 Smuggler's Copters. I thought it'd be a pretty good idea to play Smuggler's Copter in Legacy. And you know what? To hell with it. Let's go try out Smuggler's Copter in Modern. And do you know what? Spoiler alert, I think this card was very good. It actually blew my mind. It beat my expectations in a lot of ways. Sample size isn't huge. I've only played like 13 games with this card, but I'm 10-3 right now. And it's looking better and better as I play it more and more in Modern. Of course it can block things like against affinity decks, all their creatures, but it's a pretty decent body. Like for example, on turn 3, after we've played Silvergill Adept, we usually cannot attack with our Silvergill Adept because there's going to be something like a Thought-Knot Seer in our way, or even an Eldrazi Displacer, a Tarmogoyf, Scavenging Ooze. There's just a lot of creatures that we can't attack into by turn 3. But that's not the case with Smuggler's Copter. Copter is for sure getting in for damage on turn 3 and turn 4, putting our opponent's life total down to something like 14, and then that's when we'll have enough Lords in play or Master of Waves to finish off the game. Smuggler's Copter, yeah, evasion is very good, can loot when it attacks or blocks, and the looting is what really helps this deck. We need some more consistency. We have no way of curving out properly except for our deck to just be cooperating with us. I didn't find it to be a big problem that we cannot vial this thing in. Usually we just cast it for 2 and then start playing things next turn, or start vialing things in to crew it. What else can I say about this card? It's really nice to loot, draw a Lord, and then vial it in during combat. Yeah, just overall, I thought this made the deck very smooth. I really liked it. I'm going to play with it a lot more before Grand Prix Las Vegas. I can't guarantee that it's going to be part of the deck, but so far I've been pretty impressed. It was a lot better in Modern than it has been so far for me in Legacy. And I think that's going to be the deck. We're going to go straight to round 2 because round 1 lagged like crazy, and the match isn't even worth like looking at because it's just a bunch of nonsense. But I will say that I was up against a 5-color humans deck against a very good opponent. I had a lot of potential game against that deck if I wasn't lagging so much because of Gutshot. Gutshot is a very good card against the humans deck, and kill a lot of the humans, especially Champion of the Parish is what you really want to kill on the very early turns of the game before that thing gets out of control. It was also a very unique humans list because it played with Absence Pilgrim to ramp themselves into Collected Company, and I think Dispel was a good card in that matchup as well. So yeah, this is going to be the list. Let's go check out round 2. So I was on the draw here, and yeah, we're up against what appears to be some sort of black-red deck. I also should say that Smuggler's Copter is exactly as bad as it looks against Kolaghan's Command. I tried to jam it in against a few Kolaghan's Command decks, and it just is a huge blowout. I mean, they killed the Master of the Pearl Trident, they killed the Smuggler's Copter. It feels as bad as you would think it is. So definitely a card that you want to side out against all the Death Shadow decks, or at least the ones playing Kolaghan's Command. So we have a very easy turn 1 play of Curse Catcher Go. Our opponent plays Swamp Go. We draw an Aether Vial right now. Not exactly well timed, and I think the most mana efficient thing that we can do is play Spreading Seas, and next turn play Lord of Atlantis, or Master the Pearl Trident into our Aether Vial. I really like to, I mean, I'm not exactly sure what we're up against yet, but I really like to attack the black mana as much as possible to prevent them from playing Liliana the Veil or Liliana the Last Hope, or even Damnation, or, you know, whatever. And I also don't think it's particularly smart to be playing creatures first against a heavy removal deck, because there's always the chance that they could get mana screwed right here on the spot. That could be their only red source. So that's why I'm going to... Well, anyway, I attack with my Curse Catcher. Spreading Seas the Blood Crypt. And then if our opponent is mana screwed, then our creatures are going to be invincible afterwards. And we unfortunately drew a Silvergill Adept. Opponent passes doing nothing. So that gives us the green light to try to empty our hand. We drew another Silvergill Adept, so it looks like we're just going to be pulling super far ahead. I believe I opt to play a Silvergill Adept while playing the Aether Vial, and our opponent shows us Pentad Prism. And at this point, I actually had not a damn clue what we were up against. I have no idea what's going on. I was trying to think about what kind of decks could be playing this. At the time, I couldn't think about it at all. But that's okay. We're going to play Master of Waves, try to put our opponent out of misery as quickly as possible, while taking up our Aether Vial up to 1. The most mana efficient thing that we can do. Is there an argument? You could definitely play all the other creatures as well. If this is a black deck, they might have a lot of black removal, but this is definitely a little bit more of... like, it's hard to tell what's going on. I would like to say that this is a combo deck, but this guy's playing with Lightning Bolt. And our opponent played... What happened there? Oh yeah, they played Izzet Charm. I better slow down. So they played Izzet Charm, discarding Emrakul. Drawing 2 cards, discarding Emrakul, and I realized, oh! This is a Grixis Goryo's Vengeance deck, so now the cat is out of the bag. They discarded... Well, I should go... How on earth do I go back? I would love to go back. What happened was they did play Goryo's Vengeance. They attacked me for 15. I chucked all my Master of Waves elemental tokens and the lands, and took 15 going to 5. So I took my Vial up, and I'm relatively confident that I can win the game from here. I just try to go in for the win and just hope that my opponent can't reassemble this combo again. Most people would be dead here because they play with fetch lands. But we're Merfolk. We don't play with fetch lands, so our life total is at a healthy 20. Our opponent tries to slow down the clock by playing Lightning Bolt. That is a catastrophic blunder. And I play Lord of Atlantis, saving the Mutavault. Given that we had Vial clearly onto, our opponent probably should have just bolted the Silvergill Adept. So our opponent is trying to reassemble on mana, but I believe that they're just going to be dead next turn unless they do something really drastic right now. We're going to Izzet Charm again. They really have to look for the combo again, and it doesn't come there. So in this matchup, the way I sideboarded... How did I sideboard? 100% I kept the Master of Waves in the deck, because you, just like what we saw in this game, Emrakul, Master of Waves is very good when they have Emrakul draws. We can just sack all the tokens, take 15, go to 5, and then generally kill them on the next turn. I sided out Dismember, I sided out Tidebinder Mage. I'm pretty sure I sided out the Vencers just because they're just a bit too expensive. And I believe I sided out the Spreading Seizes, and I brought in a bunch of Dispels, Negates, and the Relic of Progenituses. So let's go on to game 2. So our opponent starts off with Blendsteinmeyer pass. We still got the Smuggler's Copter. I like the idea of Smuggler's Copter being able to loot, find us more counter spells. I don't know if we're going to get into that situation all the time, but that is the plan. Start off with Curse Catcher. Relatively good start against Goryo's Vengeance. I draw a land. I'm going to attack before I do anything. Play another land, and we are going to hope our opponent can't combo us off next turn. If I had maybe a Dispel, maybe I would play this slower. But it's our opponent would have to have a lot of good cards in their hand in order to go off, and there's no guarantee that it's going to be game ending even if they do. Like for example, we could even come back from an Emrakul hit from here. We would lose our entire board, but we still have a land in our hand and relatively cheap spells in our hand. The problem is, if I'm either going to play this Smuggler's Copter now, or I'm going to play it on like turn 4. And our opponent can that could give our opponent a lot of time to build up their hand, maybe find Thoughtseize, and then just kill us anyway. So I crew the Copter, played the Island, which is not correct. Not really used to Smuggler's Copter, because I should wait to see what card I get. If I find a Mutavault, perhaps I would like to play that Mutavault, and it would contribute to my clock in the future. I suppose, though, if I did draw a Mutavault, it doesn't really matter, because objectively I'm just going to... Let's say I play the Mutavault, on my next turn I'll just play an Island, followed by Master of the Pearl Trident with 4 mana, and I'd hold up Negate anyway. So I find Ether Vial, and I dump the Rajiri because I'm just nowhere close to casting that thing. And I'm just going to cast that Ether Vial and hold up my Negate. We could definitely lose from this point. We have very minimal disruption. Curse Catcher is very easy to get out of range, and our opponent could have Duress, Thoughtseize, or even Collective Brutality to look at our hand and get rid of an instant or sorcery. I'm not entirely sure what the configuration of this guy's deck will be, but those are possibilities. But hopefully Smuggler's Copter can help us find the goods. But our opponent just loots, dumps Emrakul, everything gets wiped away. I'm aware that our opponent could have Anger the Gods. This was I pretty commonly saw this card out of Goryo's Vengeance decks. And now, because I have Negate up, I'm just going to play this as patiently as possible. I'm going to get in with Smuggler's Copter. We're going to discard something. Master of the Pearl Trident. Harbinger has the ability of bouncing... what's his name? Grizzlebrand in mid-combat. Wow, the number of games my opponent plays a Grizzlebrand. Drains themselves for 7, draws 7, attacks, and then I bounce it back to their hand. And they realize that they're dead next turn because they're at something like 4, anywhere between like 1 and 5 life. So our opponent fatal pushes the Smuggler's Copter. Not to worry yet though. We've got like 2 Curse Catchers in hand. Now a good question is when to play this Curse Catcher. I certainly don't want. I want to play it during their upkeep because it's possible that they could do something in response to the Aether Vial activation. This combo does go off at instant speed because of Goryo's Vengeance. But I also don't want to get blown out by Anger of the Gods. Or even Pyroclasm. Like, I can't tell what they're going to use, but because they have the Grixis colors, they can play a lot of things. It would appear that it does not matter. Put our Curse Catcher in play. Take up the Vial. And here I don't even remember what I do. Pretty sure it's just attack for 2, pass. Get that Vial in play. Now we have more or less enough things to pitch to Emrakul. You definitely want to put as many permanents on the board just in case Emrakul comes around. In response to Emrakul, we could probably play... probably might sack everything. So our opponent does play Anger the Gods. And I decide to negate this. Our Curse Catchers are probably enough to win us the game from here. If I get my opponent to 7 or less, then Griselbrand becomes worthless. And we can, I'm pretty sure, comfortably survive an Emrakul hit. The only problem is if our opponent will play another Anger the Gods. Our opponent also can't combo off right here, right now, because of the Curse Catchers. So we're just going to try to put as much stuff on the board as possible. I didn't feel like rebuilding my board. Now our hand is really good because of Harbinger of the Tides. We can actually flash that card in. So we're going to put our opponent down to 7. Sorry, or attacking our opponent for 7. We're going to put them down to 2, and even if they do play Anger of the Gods, they're going to die to the Mutavault or Harbinger of the Tides in the following turn. Fortunately, that all happened. Even if our opponent Fatal Push the Master of the Pearl Trident, that's not that big of a deal. They would still take 4, going down to 5. Also, still, Griselbrand is also offline still, and I would also say that their chances of comboing off are not very good if they have 3 cards in their hand. So, and our opponent resigns. So through the breach here, no good. A lot of things no good. Anger of the Gods, pointless. I would just sack both Curse Catchers, forcing my opponent to tap out, and then play Harbinger of the Tides. So that is our victory against Goryo's Vengeance. Merfolk prevailing against Goryo's Vengeance. We have a lot of interaction against this deck. Tons of counterspells, cheap interaction. Smuggler's Copter, can't tell. It did some stuff. It helped us dig for things. Smuggler's Copter is very nice in that it helps loot away garbage we can't use whatsoever. Like Maririgiri was just a little too clunky. We weren't even close to casting that at any turn. But all this 2-mana stuff we could. Although it didn't have a huge impact in this game, it still contributed, and it hit for 3, which is also very nice. I think we should be pretty favored here given all our counterspells and the Graveyard Disruption with 4 Relic of Progenitus. So this was our matchup against Goryo's Vengeance. I'm gonna thank all my patrons supporting me on Patreon. You guys are awesome. And I'm going to thank our sponsor, themanabase.com. This has been Nikachu playing Copter Folk in Modern.